Welcome to the Girl Scouts of San Jacinto Council. In 2022, we're celebrating 100 years of Girl Scouting as a council. Let's take a quick look back at where we've been. The Scouting movement began in England when Robert Baden-Powell wrote the first Boy Scout handbook. Girls wanted to be part of it too, and Girl Guides was started in 1910 by his sister Agnes. The Baden-Powells were friends with Juliet Lowe, and she learned all she could before going home to Savannah, Georgia. When she got home, Juliet called her friend Nina Pape and said, "I have something for the girls of Savannah and all America and all the world, and we're going to start it tonight." She started the very first Girl Scout troop on March 12, 1912. The first Girl Scout troop in Houston organized in 1918 as Troop Number 1. Leaders back then were called captains. The 12 members and their captain, Erlene Tiesinger, had fun, especially cooking and camping outdoors. They raised money for their activities by baking cookies in Captain Tiesinger's kitchen, packaging them in bags, tying them up with string, and selling them on the banks of White Oak Bayou on the weekends. With these funds, they purchased a brass bugle, a basketball, and a tent. The girls practiced marching like the soldiers they saw in parades. When other girls heard about the fun the Girl Scouts were having, they wanted to join too. Captain Tiesinger and the girls from Troop Number 1 traveled around Houston, often by trolley, to help other groups of girls learn how to become Girl Scouts. The 1920s were an exciting time for Girl Scouts. Women had the right to vote, and skirts were a daring 9 inches off the floor. To be a Girl Scout in the 1920s, you had to be at least 10 years old, attend 4 troop meetings for a month, and pass the tenderfoot test. To pass the tenderfoot test, you had to know the Girl Scout promise and laws, the salute, the slogan, and the motto. You also had to know information about the American flag, the Pledge of Allegiance, and 2 verses of the Star-Spangled Banner. You needed the names of the President of the United States, the governor of your state, and the mayor of your town, and you had to know how to tie a square knot, a clove hitch, a sheep shank, and how to whip the ends of the rope. You also had to save money and pay a National Girl Scout registration fee of 25 cents. Then you were ready to be invested as a Girl Scout, wear the uniform, and receive the membership pin. By 1921, there were 3 Girl Scout troops with 35 girls in Houston. Corinne Fond and Frances Mann Law, our founding mothers, organized these troops and a group of interested adults into a council and applied for a charter. Girl Scouts of the USA granted the charter in April of 1922. By that time, there were 16 troops. Mrs. Law was on the National Girl Scout Board of Directors, and she knew Juliet Lowe personally. She might have even been at the meeting when Juliet Lowe stood on her head to show off the latest Girl Scout shoes to the National Board. Early cookie sales were very different from today's sales. Girls baked the cookies themselves from a store window in downtown Houston while shoppers watched. One girl wrote that they were instructed not to scratch themselves or touch their nose or hair while baking. But cookies weren't the only treats that Girl Scouts made. In 1927, Girl Scouts published the first ever recipe for s'mores. Yep, that's right. Girl Scouts invented s'mores. Generous donations from Houston citizens made a permanent camp possible for Girl Scouts. It was located on leased land near Clear Lake. Girls learned to swim in the bayou before it became polluted. Camp Tejas was used for 30 years by happy girls, counselors, and leaders. Some of today's troop leaders still remember camping there as a girl. The 1930s were a challenging time. In the Great Depression, the stock market crashed, banks closed, businesses failed, people lost their homes, and 14 million Americans were without jobs. Girl Scouts used lots of creativity to earn money for camping and other activities. One troop earned money by making donuts at the Little House, the Girl Scout headquarters. They made $12 by baking and selling 70 dozen donuts, enough to pay their membership dues and go on a camping trip to Camp Tejas, where they earned their second-class badge. Camping was important to Girl Scouts in the 1930s, just like it is now, and donors stepped up to help girls get to camp by starting the campership program. New program levels were established in the late 1930s with the introduction of unique activities and uniforms for Brownie, Intermediate, and Senior Girl Scouts. During World War II, Girl Scouts helped the war effort in many ways. Troops collected much-needed old silk, toothpaste tubes, rags, tinfoil, and phonograph records. They held nurseries to free mothers for war work, filled 2,000 stockings at one time for the Red Cross, and held a scrap rubber drive. A service bureau was established, and a small red trefoil pin was awarded to each member for hours given in service for the war effort. Many troops made clothes as a part of a nationwide Clothes for Friendship project. More than 1,500,000 items were shipped overseas to help with the World War II recovery effort. Girl Scouts were bursting the seams of Camp Tejas by the 1940s. When Camp Tejas opened in 1929, there had been 500 Girl Scouts in the council. By 1944, there were nearly 8,000 members. Agnes Cullen Arnold, a Brownie leader, donated 200 acres of piney woods just north of Conroe, and the camp was named after her. 4 prominent African-American businessmen, C.A. Dupree, Carter Wesley, Hobart Taylor, and J.H. Jemison, purchased and donated 200 acres to the council in 1949 for a camp where all girls could attend. There was an essay contest to name the camp, and a girl submitted the winning entry saying that she was inspired to suggest Robinwood because of the beauty of the woods and the many robins she had seen at camp. 1950 was the first year Houston and Harris County Girl Scouts sold commercial cookies like we do today. This money was used to develop the camps, much like it is today. In the East Texas Girl Scout Council, land was acquired from the Garrison Lumber Company and developed into Camp Whispering Pines. The first sessions at Camp Whispering Pines were held in 1950. Trailer camping was a new activity for Girl Scouts in the 1950s. The first trailer camping trip in our council was made by 12 counselors in training. They trained for 2 years to be ready to set up their own campsite wherever they might make camp. Their adventure, which they called Vagabond Crescent, took them on a 1,000-mile trip. The trailer carried all the equipment, heavy tents and tarps, bedrolls, pots and skillets, cast iron grills, kerosene lanterns, shovels, axes, rakes, and other tools. They kept a logbook, and this is what one of the girls wrote. When we got to Tex Lake, we were only an hour late. We had a very nice reception and were taken over 3 or 4 hills to our camp spot, which is right on Lake Travis. We managed to have camp fully set up in 2 hours. This includes tents, cots, fly for the kitchen, latrine, garbage pit, and cooking area. We then had a quick supper and sang around the fire while we watched the moon descend behind the mountain across the lake. In 1962, Girl Scouts across the nation celebrated the 50th anniversary by planting marigolds and specially developed Girl Scout roses in parks and gardens across the council and across the nation. They also demonstrated Girl Scout activities at shopping centers all over the council. Then, in 1963, there was a major program change in Girl Scouting, adding 4 distinct program levels: Brownies, Juniors, Cadets, and Seniors. Each level had its own handbook and its own unique uniform. In 1967, San Jacinto camps were all opened to all Girl Scouts. Camp Martha Madeley was still a favorite camp, and girls here could camp in cabins or in floored tents. The programs included swimming in the pool, hiking, lake fishing, arts, and nature crafts, among many other things. The 1970s were years of growth for San Jacinto Council. The East Texas counties joined San Jacinto Council, along with Camp Whispering Pines. Our Commonwealth headquarters expanded to 2 stories, and the Imperial Valley Service Center was received as a gift. Girls had many camping choices in the 1970s. You and your troop could go to camps Arana, Agnes Arnold, Casa Mare, Martha Madeley, Misty Meadows, Peach Creek Ranch, Robinwood, Silver Springs, or Whispering Pines. The council also held its first ever national wider opportunity called Taste of Texas in 1973, which was attended by girls from across the nation. Our nation's 200th birthday in 1976 was a very big year for the council. Girls participated in bicentennial parades, and the council choir sang all over the council and on TV. The choir also visited Washington, D.C. Troops participated in an international service project by assembling kits of school supplies for children overseas. Our second wider opportunity, called Ahoy Come Aboard, was held at Camp Casa Mare. Cookies were now sold for $1.25 a box, and photos of San Jacinto girls and leaders appeared on all the cookie boxes in 1979 around the nation. It was exciting to see familiar faces on the boxes. Daisies became part of our Girl Scout family in 1984. They are named for Juliet Lowe, whose nickname was Daisy. At that time, they were only in kindergarten, but starting in 2008, Daisies changed to kindergarten and first grade. By the late 1980s, San Jacinto Girl Scouts was the largest council in the United States, and it had the highest number of cookie sales for several years. Signature events, such as GAM at Casa Mare, became very popular. The council established a new 21st century leadership campaign, and their first goal was the development of Camp Misty Meadows as a new equitation center, one well away from the flooding that had impacted Peach Creek Ranch. The 1990s saw a number of changes for our council. Misty Meadows Ranch was dedicated as the new equitation center, and it opened just in time for resident camp. The camp staff that summer claimed that the construction crew was moving out as the girls were moving in. In Seabrook, construction of the new galley and dorms started at Casa Mare, and a new fundraising gala called the Urban Campout helped raise money for all the construction as the council continued to grow. At Camp Arnold, the lodge had become unsafe and had to be removed. For 2 years, girls dined in a large tent as a new lodge was planned and built. With help from the TLL Temple Foundation, the new lodge, the same one that we now know and love, was opened in 1996. To celebrate Girl Scouts of San Jacinto Council's 80th birthday in 2002, the council held a giant sing-along and picnic at the San Jacinto Monument. More than 5,000 Girl Scouts from Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Alaska attended. Can you imagine singing Happy Birthday with that many friends? Birthday cake never tasted so good, even though it rained. There was even a council songbook and learning cassette tape published, so troops could learn the songs ahead of time. And those recordings are now available on the online community, so you can learn those same songs with your girls now. A lot of today's troop leaders remember the Sing and Celebrate event. If you were there, what do you remember the most? In 2006, Brazoria, Fort Bend, Galveston, and Wharton counties joined Girl Scouts of San Jacinto Council. In 2007, Matagorda County joined the council, and Camp Pryor, Camp Windermere, and the Galveston Boat Club joined our 7 other camps. Then, in 2008, the Program Place for Girls opened. Now girls had even more choices. Construction continued at several camps, with the addition of a new LEED-certified nature center at Camp Arnold, a saltwater pool at Camp Pryor, an air rifle range at Misty Meadows, and a sailing center at Casa Mare. These projects all continue to help thousands of girls each year participate in unique outdoor opportunities at camp. In 2011, San Jacinto Council again played host to the National Girl Scout Convention and the 100th anniversary celebration, with over 10,000 attendees at the George R. Brown Convention Center. A National Girl Scout Leadership Institute was also hosted as part of the National Convention, with 1,200 girls in attendance. At the convention, girls and volunteers celebrated 100 years of empowering women, but also realized that there is still work to do. Now, more than ever, Girl Scouts are needed to create the leaders of tomorrow. At Camp Pryor, construction completed with the addition of a new welcome center, a gathering pavilion, cabin and kitchen updates, a new 6-acre lake, a boat pavilion, a ceremonial bridge, birdhouse cabins, and an amphitheater. The last few years have been challenging for our community and for our council, but Girl Scouts have continued to thrive, even during the global pandemic. The council converted hundreds of programs to a virtual format, and troops continued to meet even during lockdowns. Some popular programs were Girl Scouts Got Talent, a virtual talent competition for girls of all levels, and the Camp In, Camp Out. At Tree Lake, the new Welcome Center and the new Adventure Park were completed just in time for Summer Camp 2021 and are now in use every weekend. And now we're excited that Girl Scouts of San Jacinto Council celebrates 100 years. We're excited that you've earned this cool patch, and we're excited that girls and adults across the council can add charms to the patch by joining in fun birthday events and activities throughout the year, culminating with a giant birthday event at Tree Lake in December. Happy birthday, Girl Scouts of San Jacinto Council. The next 100 years will be even better.